Hey, this is Ben Solomon, and welcome to this episode of the Techno Leadership Show. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how to prepare your tech or engineering manager CV or resume. Now, as I've mentioned in previous episodes that I've done about CVs and resumes are the most widely accepted format in North America, the US, which is usually a 1 or 2 page summary of all your experience, the value that you bring, etc. And in other countries, especially India, most parts of the Middle East, UK, Australia, New Zealand, as far as I know, all use the curriculum vitae format, which is a fairly extensive coverage of what you have accomplished over your career and is more detailed than the resume format. Now, there are resume formats where you can fit things in by designing it well, so you can get more information in there, as well as having a more visually appealing resume format. I recently created a resume as such, just for the sake of it, after having seen a guy on LinkedIn who kind of posted his resume template, who I believe works for Microsoft. So I looked at it and went, yeah, I could actually position my skills and all that into a resume format that's 1 or 2 pages long. So I just did it because I enjoyed seeing how I could condense this monster of a CV that I had into something that would fit in 2 pages. Managed to do it. Had to learn to be very lean at the same time, be strategic and hit the right points with the right intensity. But either way, there are certain principles that will help you stand out with your resume or your CV. And those are things that you need to use to grab attention of the people who would be looking at it for the roles that you're applying for. In most organizations, if you're applying for a tech manager or engineering manager role, HR would be having a look at it. Yes, it'll go through automated systems, so you need to make sure that it's legible to those systems and you're not using too many funky formatting things in between that it might make it all look weird. But also you need to make sure that you have the right keywords and things in there. And what are those right keywords? Again, going back to season 1, looking at things like your strengths, your weaknesses. Obviously, you wouldn't be putting your weaknesses in there, but understanding of what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then using that to position your experience, your skills, your knowledge, your passions, as well as the natural strengths that you have into the resume or the CV that you're building. So I have a tendency, and most places people have a tendency to utilize this format, which is to have some form of a summary at the top. So the summary is mainly hitting your accomplishments and highlighting the value that you bring and highlighting the strengths, the expertise and quantifiable value that you have created in previous roles. Whether you are going from an engineering role, technology role into management, or you've been in some form of team leader sort of people leadership position and going into a official manager role, you have different skills, you have different experiences, you have achieved things. You have to always look at it from the perspective as an engineer or a technologist. You've run projects that has accomplished certain outcomes. You might have run a project where you've refreshed the infrastructure, and that's cut cost by 10% and improved overall effectiveness and everything by, let's say, 20%. So you've achieved that, and you played a significant part in that whole process. So you need to highlight that in there. And when highlighting that, you need to highlight how you took leadership of that project, how you looked at the big picture. Because when you go into like management roles and then executive leadership roles, your ability to see the bigger picture of the impact that anything has is more important. So you need to highlight how you looked at the big picture, looked at the forecasting, you looked at the ROI and return on investment and all of those aspects from the standpoint of how it benefits the business, how it benefits the overall experience of clients and everything. So when you present that in that manner of how you were able to improve the customer experience by X%, you were able to cut help desk calls, let's say, by 20% because of better technology that was used and better implementation that was done. All of these things matter. And if you had shown leadership by running trainings, writing technical documentation, and working with your technical manager or engineering manager closely to build up cases for projects, all of that matters. Condense that, hit the most important high impact points and put them in your CV or resume. In the summary, you'll have the biggest, best impactful achievements, accomplishments, things that you've done that show that you're good leadership material up there. And then when you put in your experience for each of the roles that you've been in over the last how many ever years, usually 10 years is what most people look at. Beyond that, you can say you can just have like from X year to Y year, I've worked in these companies or whatever it is, and no one really looks that deeply into the past. But it's usually the last couple of roles at least that you want to really highlight. And if you've changed jobs more than a few times in the last 10 years, then put those jobs in there. At least have 3 accomplishments that are high impact accomplishments that show a bit of leadership and show your big picture thinking, all of that in the accomplishments under each of those roles. And then put in your skills, like business skills that you have, any other specific technology skills that you might have, skills around people management, conflict management, those sort of things. Put all of them in there in small lists. And once you've done that, if there are certain skills that you have that you can explain a little bit further of how you've demonstrated that. For example, let's say you've got good business analysis skills. You say business analysis skills, advanced, and a previous experience where you've exhibited that skill well. And then let's say you have people management skills. Even if it's not in the job, if you've been the captain of a sporting team or whatever it might be, you can utilize that to say, in my experience I've led a sporting team, and if given the and I would be able to do the same in the role. And in a lot of cases, like if you've been in a senior technology or engineering position, you would have been like the second in charge, and there have been times when you've been the manager, when your actual manager's been on leave or whatever it might be. So use those things, bring those things in and say, this is how I managed the situation when my manager was away. So once you've done all that, in most cases you might go referees provided on request. I personally just put the referees in there, and I just tell the people that when I start going through the interview process, for them to let me know before they contact my referees. But other than that, I'm usually an open book. It's there. But a lot of people prefer to not have their referees listed in the resume, which is fine. You can just have a thing saying referees provided on request. So that's basically it. If you know your strengths, if you know your experience, you can bring a few things together to position yourself as the right candidate. Put those things into the CV or resume and build it up in a manner that's impactful, because these HR and leadership staff, they are going through a lot of resumes. So you want to have high impact at the very top. You want to drag them through the whole resume to go, yep, I want to talk to this person. So make sure it's impactful, punchy, and to the point. So hopefully that helps you out. I wish you all the best in your journey as a tech professional, manager, and leader. If you like this episode, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to the channel so that you're notified of future episodes as they are released. Take care and have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon.